G'day, g'day, g'day. It's Mathematical KM, Keith Malumbi, their initials, not a title. And bringing you round 5 of the Doeberl Cup in Canberra, bringing a water horse to every game. And this game could have been titled something along the lines of Don't Castle When You Know Better, and it's something which I do know and did anyway, but once you've been burnt, you don't do it again. But I've instead gone with pretty much sack, sack. Well, you've heard of sack, sack, mate. This should have been sack, 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 mate. And it's a lesson in if things aren't going your way and part of the board, to just throw caution to the wind and attack as much as you can. Play the defence you have to and attack as you can, and you'll see an interesting end. So off we go. Let's go to the races. So far, we pretty much get to if you've been watching my videos, the breather moment comes up fairly quickly without anything too... Okay, usually to finish the breather moment would be one night move. The computer's actually recommending it. Maybe you have to think about that a little, but, why not? On the other hand, I don't want to, even though it's the second choice of D takes, E takes, and getting the queens off and having that open file, that's not really my style of blow it all up in the middle and go. Still, that could be okay, especially for the computer. B5 is just a quiet move out here and just leaving it to white to take me or not. But a typical move is Legoing it in the middle when white pushes one of those two forward. White's got an edge of 0.8 just due to the space, and the computer doesn't like you being as cramped as this. Got a bishop stack there. I decided to take... What did the computer think about that? Knight B to C6. To go away a little bit from the standard hippo and put some more pressure on there. Interesting, but I've gone with one of the hippo's standard moves and taken a bit of that space that's being offered. And also, and I know this from Solomon's courses, and quick infomercial, you can get 30% off Solomon Ruddell, the chess giant's hippo course. Playing the hippo as black and white over the board tournaments, he got as high as National Master only using that opening in the States. So it's quite a nice course, and that info will be in the details. And yep, the code, I think it's Chess25. Check the details. 30% off whilst in April. So I highly recommend that course and his free YouTube videos. Now let's keep cracking. He's moved his knight away. I have gone a little differently from the standard hippo. The B knight is not coming into D7. I've put the queen there. He's taking space on the king side. Now usually it's some sort of a pawn storming race with white going on attacking on the queen side. My king may or may not be there. That's one thing about the hippo, you don't castle immediately. It gets too nasty over there, I should be castling to the queen side. But for what it's worth, I'm meant to be organising some sort of a pawn storm on the king side. And I can do that. The pawn is protected by the queen. I think that's the thinking I had, so I moved it there. Trying to get these two pawns down to do some damage, and we've got a rook and a queen, a few pieces to... Obviously all of white's pieces nothing over here. So if I can get it going... Okay, he's brought forward a pawn to stop the pawn storm, for what it's worth. I can take that pawn forward, and what that does is it stops the B pawn from moving forward if I get the chance to move the A pawn forward. Now, to move the A pawn forward, I need to be protecting the B pawn. He's sending his knights. He's sending everything over the queen side. And I've brought my knight here to protect the B pawn to allow me to play A4. That's what I'm thinking about. Okay, it's starting to, what's the temperature like over on that king side? And bang. 5.8. Let's have a look. From 1.2, 1.1. Now I know this. I know that I've got the rook and the bishop on that pawn because there is a battery. This is something I know. It's not something I've got wrong. It's a little bit hidden amongst all these other pieces, but I'm not going to get burnt by that one again. However, after I'm about to gift an attack to white, the most interesting thing about this game is how I've reacted to it. Okay, so it's out to over -6, and we all know it's coming. I think the moment after I'd castled, I knew it was coming. If I was wanting to connect the rooks, I could have walked my king over to here and castled manually, and he wouldn't be coming in. But I don't even want my king on the queen side, which is where he's attacking. All I really wanted was another rook for coming in. And so it would have made a lot more sense to step my king forward one space, and then the rooks would be connected, and this rook would be doing its job at h8 until I needed it to come in a hurry to a8, probably with a check. Okay, so that's the disastrous moment in the game, that castling move. Not telling you never to castle, but it can be bad, and that was as bad as it can get. In he comes. Now, I don't particularly want to take the bishop and have his queen come straight in. That's almost giving him a tempo. I do have half of an attack over on the queen side where his king is. So let's push the A pawn. He takes. Now I can't really leave the bishop there, and this time if I move the king forward one, for now the queen can't come all the way in. Every time I get a move where I'm not being checked or mated, I'm going to be trying to make progress over on the queen side, throwing caution to the wind. It's a very learning game in a way. It's not always going to work, but if you've done something wrong, okay, I don't think I can let that stand, and yeah, got to take that knight. If I just move away, then the queen comes in and the knight's there giving it, queen hit on g7 is going to mate me. You can see g takes h5 is only -5.6. If I move the king, it goes to 11, or move the king to the wrong spot to mate in 2. So I need to play the defensive move of taking it. He's brought his queen in. Now you'll see, keeping it at this -5.9, well, I'm calling it minus, he's white, he's calling it +5.9. But the defensive move that's got to be made here is knight to g6. He's taken with a pawn. I'm not in check. I can do something. If I just keep it at +6 and don't do anything drastic, the game's over. So that's not the plan. Instead, we take a pawn. We need lanes coming in. He's got, if he plays it right, if he ignores me now and plays it right, he's got mate and 6. But this is where if you're attacking crazily on the other side, you never know what you're going to get. And he's taken that pawn, so it can't do any more harm. He didn't want this rook coming up, so he's used his C pawn, but that does let me get the first little sniff. So there's check. I've got a pawn supporting these 2 squares. If I get the chance, for now it's still, no, that knight can't move, just looking at what assets I've got. Not a whole lot. The suggested move is king to b1 because it avoids any difficulties with queen to c3. And he's played it. It's up to +8. Now, why did I put my knight there? One reason and one reason alone. Get out of the way. I need to make a lane. And also, having made the lane, hopefully that is tempting enough to keep White's attention in the part of the world where I want White's attention. It worked. He took it. It worked. I gave him a piece. Having said that, I have opened a lane for that rook to close to the king. Temporarily block the queen's one, and the lane doesn't go all the way to the king. It only goes to as far as a2. So I've sacked a knight. Let's sack a rook. Why not? We've got mate and 13 for White. And that's playing check or playing check. You notice it's the third best, and it's the one without a mate in whatever, is h times g6. And I guess there's a lesson for if you're on the wrong side of the ledger and you know that the game's lost to you, to madly attack. There's a lesson for White in taking his time and thinking through, has he got a mate and can he just ignore that rook that's just right next to his king? But, very human move, he takes the rook. That does give me a check. I need forcing moves. Forcing moves, forcing moves, forcing moves if I'm, got any hope of escaping from this one. Okay, so he's moved his king to where I pretty much can't give any checks. So I've taken my bishop across, threatening his bishop, which is one of the pieces on my knight. That arrow should really be going the other way. And hoping that either he'll take my bishop and I can get my queen across so I can come this way, or once my queen is at a6 and that bishop's not there anymore, there's also queen check at e2. Blockable with the queen and the rook combining, but then I guess that knight covers it. But there's chances. Also, and better, would be if I can get the queen to here. But so we're thinking about it, and he's, let's see, h times g6 is in fact his best move at this point. And he's played it. Now, king f8 is plus 12.9. So it's the best move, but it's a move in which you're going to lose the game because you're just meant to lose this game. But if you're wanting to attack, we take the bishop. It would be nice if it gets a rook offline. Makes it a little bit easier for what could happen down there. Nice move. And again, computer is asking me to take the f-pawn with the king. Instead, because if I take the f-pawn and then the queen comes here and then just no. Making it slightly more complicated is bishop here. The queen can't just take the bishop. Right now, the pawn can't go forward, but the queen can come to f6, which it does. And look, mate in 14, mate in 6, mate in 4. It's all looking bad. But the best move is getting the king behind the pawn. And notice my rook is protected by my queen. If he was to check me here, then moving there, the rook is then threatening his queen. But it's also the move that gives him the least chance of putting another check on me right now. And so let's see, what does he do? And obviously the temptation is again that bishop. So, we've sacked, what have we sacked so far? A knight, a rook, and you could easily call this sacking a bishop. And we need to sack one more rook. That's mate in 3. He's made quite a human move. That's pretty much game for white. And this is where the madly attack. I had the game. If only I was to give, in addition to the rook, bishop and knight that I've sacked so far, I needed to sack one more rook. It's the only forcing move. And going for forcing moves when you're the one being attacked, that is the way to go. Now, I'll tell you right now, in the game, too slow, not forcing, queen to a6, knight to e6, I resign. But I just couldn't help myself. I left the nice moves in the review. Here we go. This is what I should have played. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. Check. His only move. Check. His only move. Checkmate. And look at the material there. White is on plus 12 material and black gets the checkmate. So the lesson there is sack, 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 mate. Had I have found that last forcing move, I would have actually felt like a complete scoundrel winning that game. I put myself into that situation with the castling when I know I shouldn't have. And that went, the eval went 5 points different. Having said that, it's a good game for people watching this video to see. If you know if you play normally you're going to lose, just gradually, and it'll be a respectable loss, whatever that means. Instead, you can start throwing material away, attacking like crazy. Plus 12 material to white, black gets checkmate. I don't know, but it's in the vein of a Simon Williams game, I feel. But that was a highly entertaining game played against Daniel Spencer. He enjoyed it almost as much, well, probably more than I did, but he enjoyed it a little bit more after I showed him how I missed the one move with the mate in 3. And then he said he enjoyed it immensely. But that was a fun learning curve game. It shows just how crazy attacking you can go with black in the hippo down one side. But I had that pawn storm happening. I didn't need to invite white in for its own attack over there. But that's definitely a fun game, and bye for now.